Well, there we go. We're all back to normal here on this week's 5 Minutes at the Frat House with Frat House Mike and Sidekick. And welcome
in
back.
the house.
Welcome back. Hey, you know, good to have you.
Live and in the flesh.
Good to have you back in your place, and I'm sure our technical director back there, Brandon, is happy about that as well. He tried to sit in for you last week. What do you think? What kind of a grade do you give him?
I goofed.
I goofed.
No, I won't put you on the spot. I wouldn't do that to Brandon either. You had a nice trip to St. Louis.
Yep.
You brought back the nasty weather with you. We appreciate that here at the Frat House. All right. 93rd edition coming at you right now. 5 Minutes at the Frat House. And, well, let's jump right into our weekly sports chat. And we'll start it off with a look back at the 14th race, NASCAR race of the season. Up at the party at the Poconos 400 at our favorite tricky triangle at Pocono Raceway. Pole sitter and laps leader Jimmy Johnson won his third of the season. And if anyone referred to this Pocono race as dull or boring, well, it might have been just simply because it seemed like Johnson led from the beginning to the end. I mean, he might as well have. As he led 128 of the 160 laps. Others who came in the top five included Greg Biffle came in second, Dale Jr. came in third, and we talked last week about whether Tony Stewart had turned the corner. Well, he pulled a fourth.
Yep.
And my favorite, I say that snickering, Ryan Newman came in fifth. In a race that was pretty much event-free, we ended up with 5 of the 6 race cautions coming in the last 34 laps, giving the conclusion of this race a kind of a bit of a disjointed feel to it. In fact, I said pre-show, one of the things I wanted to bring up was that it was kind of a rather dull race, but and the ending didn't help with having that many cautions and so few laps at the conclusion of it.
Well, and when you have somebody dominate a race for 120 of the
and they're not on your fantasy team,
it does kind of make for a boring race.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean he led from, like I said, from almost the beginning, and the only reason he didn't lead consistently because there were obvious green flag pit stops. So nonetheless, let's take a look at the Sprint Cup standings leaderboard. And Johnson now is really beginning, as you can see, to create a little bit of distance as he holds on to the number 1 spot now, 51 points ahead of Carl Edwards, who is still in the number 2. Clint Boyer stays in the number 3. Dale Jr. jumps back up now into the top 5, and he's now holding that number 4 spot. And Kevin Harvick continues to hold on to number 5.
Yep.
So, movers. Losers. And I got a couple here I want to throw at you.
The best finish by a female in this race.
There you go.
29th.
29th. Talk to me about Matt Kenseth. Dropped back out of the top 5.
Yep.
Dropped down to number 6. Tony Stewart continues moving up, now in 13th.
Yep.
Holding what? Holding on to the wild card spot. Is that correct?
I don't know if he's got wild card.
Because of the 1 win. Right.
Yep. In 13th he does because, condition of wild card is you have to have a win.
Right.
Well, I guess let me get into the biggest movers and biggest losers because I do want to talk about Tony Stewart for a second. So the biggest losers of the week were Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who dropped 5 spots. Paul Menard dropped 3 spots. Mm-hmm. The big movers this week were Greg Biffle. He moved up 3 spots, and Tony Stewart moved up 3 spots. Mm-hmm. This is the 2nd week in a row that he's been on the biggest mover list.
Yep.
Last week he was up 4 spots.
4. He's moved up 7 in the past 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Right.
In 2 weeks he's moved up 7 spots.
Right.
And as we were talking about, do you think
turn the corner?
You asked, do you think he's going to make the chase? And right now, he's in a wild card spot.
Yep.
So, by virtue of the win at Dover, and then, his, 4th place finish now, now he just needs to kind of, hold on, and he's in the chase.
Right.
It'd be nice if he can get up into the top 10, and, he's not worrying about fighting for a wild card. Mm-hmm. But, this
Still
stage right
plenty of
now,
time.
at this, some people were, like you were questioning, is he going to be able to make the chase? And here he is, boom, 2 weeks
Still
later.
plenty of time, and as we mentioned in last week's show, he's a warm weather driver.
Yes.
So, Denny Hamlin, excuse me, moved up one. He's in 25th. How's that looking?
Yeah, he's still got a stretch. I mean,
really.
he's definitely got more work than Tony had.
Yep.
Obviously, but he's the problem I think you're going to see with Denny Hamlin right now is he's in a swing for the fences mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you're in that kind of mode, you're probably not going to be that consistent. Mm-hmm. Because you're going to be gambling, you're going to be trying, and so you might do really well one week, and then the next week, you gamble too much, and you crap out. So it'll be interesting to watch Denny going in, leading up to the chase, whether he can get there. I mean, I think he can get there. I mean, we just saw with Tony how well Tony moved up. But I think the big thing for Denny is he's got to get a win.
So if you were on Denny's crew, would you be telling him, hey, stop trying to be Ryan Howard? I mean, seriously, is that what you would actually be advising him?
See, I don't know right now. I mean,
he's running out of time. It's not
well, that's what I'm saying.
to win the game.
You've got to try to win the race, which means you're going to have to take some gambles.
But as you point out so many times, consistency. If you get the top fives, the top tens, that's what's going to get you the points. Look at Clint Boyer. He's got no wins.
Right. And that's what I would say basically with Denny. If Denny's running well, then I would say, okay, let's take a top 10,
right?
And call it a day. But if he's, back of the pack or mid pack, and stuff like that, I might be, a little enticed to try and gamble a little bit to try to get him at least up into that top 10.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So as long as he's if he can string the top 10s together, he's going to do fairly well.
He's going to start moving.
But he's going to have to get a win or two to get it, to get into the chase.
Well, maybe we've got two here. You got Clint, no wins. You got Dale with no wins. So we'll see.
Well, if you're in the top 10, you don't need a win.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Just string together the top 10s, and you're going to start to see a move. So.
Yeah, but at this point, I think he needs to be looking at the wild.
No, I agree. It's one step at a time. You got to look at one thing at a time.
I think he should aim for top 10.
Right.
But ultimately, he needs to be in the to compete for the wild card at a minimum. So.
Right. Alrighty. With this, let's get into something else real quick here.
Okay.
This was our 14th race of the season. And lo and behold, for our viewing pleasure, we were entertained with 3 hours of advertisements with occasional commercial breaks for auto racing, as TNT, otherwise known as Terrible NASCAR Television, took over the national broadcast for Fox.
Joy.
I got to tell you, Sidekick, this is without a doubt some of the worst broadcast coverage I have ever experienced of a sporting event.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
It's dull and frequently ridiculously innocuous without any relevance, to what's happening on the track or in the race. Of the staff that TNT assembled, the only ones, in my opinion, that bring anything of value are Kyle Petty and Larry McReynolds. Now, in a recent article over at pilotonline.com, which was dated May 31st, it was revealed that NASCAR's TV contracts with Fox, TNT, and ESPN/ABC all run through next season, which is 2014. Fox right now is the only one that apparently has secured an extension to that contract. In that same article, NASCAR Chairman Brian France said, "My hope is to renew with the incumbents." Why? Why, Brian? Why? Okay. But that's why you have negotiations and discussions. We'll have to see how that plays out, he further commented. The article further went on to indicate that TNT declined to comment on its position regarding upcoming NASCAR negotiations. The network also declined to comment and discuss fan criticism over the amount of commercials packed into a NASCAR broadcast. Okay, now, Sidekick, I know you.
And then they went to a commercial. Jack wagons.
I know you've got some feelings about this network switch, which mercifully for us race fans is only for 6 weeks. I guess my question is why? All right.
Okay.
Why does TNT even have to come in the mix even for such a short period of time? What is the point here?
Okay. If we want to go down this road, do we have a dump button? I don't know. I can see NASCAR trying to spread around, but TNT's got to go. I mean, they're, like you said, the only, Kyle Petty and Larry McReynolds are the only ones on that broadcast team that are worth a damn.
Yep.
And funny because Larry Mack you see him on Fox. Fox's coverage of NASCAR is the most entertaining.
It's the best, in my opinion.
I mean, even with that sappy, Darryl Waltrip with his boogity boogie.
I like him.
I'm sorry, I get used to the, hearing, buckle up those belts one more time, boys. We're going,
I like it.
Is kind of cheesy and stuff. And it is. I like it. I think they do a better job of covering stuff about the race cars.
Yep.
And
it's relevant.
And all around. But what really stings with TNT is the commercials. Mm-hmm. Last year almost a year ago, we were complaining about this because we went through that Kentucky race where, they had a record 31.7% of that broadcast was commercials. They aired that damn KFC commercial 7 times and then, flooded us with Danica commercials.
Yep.
The GoDaddy commercials and stuff like that. Looking at last year's coverage, I've got some stats. All right, Fox, during their whole broadcast, they only averaged 23.6% of their broadcast time being a commercial. They never, ever got anywhere close to 30%. TNT, on the other hand, 31.4 was their average.
Are you telling me NASCAR's not looking at this when they're working in these contracts? You're not looking at that? Who's covering the race? I mean, I don't understand. That should be something that should be stipulated by the client. The client is NASCAR, and NASCAR should have standards across the board for their networks. That's the way it goes.
Yep.
We shouldn't be jumping from one. I don't give a damn whether it's 6 races or not. We should not be seeing that kind of a jump from one network to the next. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Now the one thing I don't have is the third segment.
The ESPN, ABC, yeah.
With what their ads are.
Right.
And that, so, I'd kind of be interested to see that in comparison. But TNT's coverage is just horrid.
It's not just the commercials, though. I frankly find their color commentary just inane at times.
It's very dry. Like Fox.
There's no personality to it.
Exactly. Fox, there's humor. There's, there's back and forth. But yet at the same time, they're very knowledgeable about what they're talking about. They explain it. Mm-hmm. They've got their little gimmicks that they throw in there. We had Digger and and stuff like that. But, TNT, it's just dry.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're here to report on the NASCAR race. Jimmy Johnson has won the party at the Pocono.
Mr. France, you've heard from the Frat House. TNT comes up in 2014.
Kick them up!
Can them!
You jackwagon!
Please, yeah. All right. Listen, we got race 15 coming up.
Yep.
And we're heading actually to one of my favorite locations, and that's the 2-mile oval of Michigan International Speedway. I really like this track. And coverage, as we just discussed, will be brought to you by TNT on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So talk to us. What do we have to do this week for fantasy?
All right. Hopefully my notes are all correct this week and I don't have gaff like I did last week.
That's all right.
All right, so we're going to the 2-mile super speedway in Michigan this weekend, and this is who you're going to want to look at.
Okay.
Some familiar names. Uncle Mark's favorite driver, Clint Boyer. The only driver in the field with more than 2 consecutive top 10s at Michigan. 2675. may be one of the first times I've mentioned this name this season in fantasy picks.
Go ahead.
Or maybe second, because he doesn't come up often. Dale Jr. Dale Jr. won last year's event, and also on the fall race, finished in the top 10. He is 2650. Greg Biffle won the fall race and finished 4th in the spring race.
Right.
$26. I'm going, like last week, even though he did horrible last week, but I'm going with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He should do better this week. He's a Roush guy. Roushes typically run well at Michigan. And then to fill out the roster, I'm going to put David Rudiman on there for $6, taking the total to $99.75.
That's a very, very different lineup you've got there. All right. Maybe one of these weeks I'll take your suggestions and get myself above the Mendoza line. Yeah, you're there, and I'm like below the Mendoza line.
Ooh, 1 and 2.
Yeah. 1 and 2, yeah. We're going to find out later on in the show. Many of our other sports are finishing up as they're in playoff finals and that sort of thing. And it won't be long now until Major League Baseball will be our dominant sports topic for a few weeks.
Yep.
So what do you say let's go take a look at Major League Baseball standings 11 weeks now into the season. Over in the American League, the Boston Red Sox are now 3 games ahead of the New York Yankees in the AL East. In the Central, the Detroit Tigers are 4.5 games in front of the Cleveland Indians. And in the West, the Texas Rangers, who have, it felt like, have led the West since the beginning of first week.
Well, they have.
There you go. Maybe that's why it felt like it. Well, they're 4-6 in their last 10 and have relinquished the top spot, at least for a minute, to the Oakland A's, who are now ahead by 1 game.
Playing that money ball.
In the National League, the Atlanta Braves are 6 games in front of the Washington Nationals, who took over again in second place. The St. Louis Cardinals still 2.5 games in front of the Cincinnati Reds in the Central.
Best record in Major League Baseball?
Yes, they do. And in the West, the Arizona Diamondbacks are 2 games in front of the Colorado Rockies. And there you have our standings.
It's time again for Frat House Mike's Screwball Stories.
Well, here are a couple of goofy ones for you that I'm going to be bringing to you. Some of these might generate a little bit of comment. First one probably won't, because this is kind of a no-brainer. Stories of athletes and celebrities posting dumb things on social media, like photos of themselves in awkward environments, and texting inappropriate comments are, well, countless. We've had so many of those, you would think that everybody out there would know by now. That's a no-no. Just don't do it. But taking to Twitter to repeatedly rip your employer might just be one of the most boneheaded moves ever.
There seems to be no sign of intelligent life anyway.
Cubs third baseman Ian Stewart responded to a Twitter follower who asked him when he was going to be brought back up to the bigs, because apparently he's down in AAA right now. Stewart tweeted, quote, "Probably never. The Cubs are done with me. They're going to let me rot in AAA all season and then non-tender me after. I think the manager doesn't like me, and he's running the show." The Cubs' response to the 164 hitter was a much louder tweet. They suspended him without pay. Do people, does anybody ever learn? Seriously.
Well, okay. If you're playing for a major league team, okay, and you're frustrated with the team, and you tweet, I could see an occasional gaffe, maybe, yes. a little frustration, okay? Yes. But when you've been demoted down to a AAA team, and you're trying to get your ass back onto that major league team, even though it is the Cubs, and we know where I stand with the Cubs.
Is it a small?
Yeah. Really?
I know.
You might be a dumbass.
Yeah.
That's not screwball, that's dumbass.
All right. Well, now, since you brought up dumbasses, we've...
Sure.
I
noticed a trend.
We've lived with players getting caught cheating with corked bats, sandpaper and nail files in their back pocket, pine tar on their caps. All right, we've seen any number of all those kinds of things to get an advantage. But I got a question. Is it cheating when league management arranged and coordinated the wide-scale advantage? The other day, league officials from the Japanese NPB, otherwise known as, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly.
Not playing baseball.
Yeah. Nippon Baseball, Nippon Professional Baseball, admitted that they sanctioned alterations made to the baseball provided by the manufacturer Mizuno. League officials have been openly questioned about the possibility of juiced baseballs all season long, as home runs and batting averages have increased across the league dramatically. And they have consistently denied any alterations to the ball itself. In April, NPB said specifications of the ball, quote, have not been changed, a statement that has been repeated several times since. But on Tuesday, NPB came clean, saying that they had asked manufacturer Mizuno to, adjust the ball to give it greater bounce off the bat, and demanded the company keep quiet about the switch.
Now, see, that's where I have issues. That's where I have issues.
Right there. Yeah.
Okay. If you want to tweak the ball, in under the guise of, hey, we want to see if we tweak the ball a little bit, how it affects the game.
Right.
And we're going to experiment with this. Okay.
For a fan experience.
And you come out and you say, hey, we've tweaked the ball to try to enhance the game for the fans.
Mm-hmm.
Because
for the fans,
the fans would like to see a little bit more offense maybe.
Right.
So we're going to make a small adjustment to the ball to try to help the offense a little bit. No problem. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to sit here and, like we're doing now and criticize them.
Because in some respects, at that
mean?
point, the field is level. It's not like it's giving anybody an advantage.
Exactly. But now, to sit there and deny it
repeatedly
through the season, tell the manufacturer, don't say anything to anybody that we're screwing around with this ball. Mm-hmm. And then finally to cave in and say, yeah, we were screwing with the ball. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
So,
Some people might have.
And it's not like this is the first time in the history of baseball this has been done. Major League Baseball has done this a couple times.
They have, actually. And you're right. You're right about that. So,
and I don't think the fans are going to be upset if you were to come out and just say, hey, yeah, we tweaked the ball to see, we may at the end of the season rethink this and, make the, switch it back or lessen it or do whatever. Hey, no foul.
Right.
No harm, no foul.
Right.
But, to sit there and lie and cover it up, well,
Yeah, see.
That's just Pearl Harboring.
That's the thing, is it? That's boom, boom, boom. That's where it gets a little bit dicey, is that it appears to be some sort of like cover-up sort of thing. So.
Yep.
Anyhow. All right. We hear constantly about teams and stadiums going green. Now we have some players who have taken up the environmental cause. Orioles outfielder Steve Pearce is certainly doing his part, and I think he's doing it probably better than most. The 30-year-old journeyman, who's right now doing his second stint with the Orioles, opted out of his quote-unquote big old truck, as his main form of transportation, to a souped-up electric skateboard that he rides to the ballpark. I love that thing, he said. It's comfortable, it's cushioned, great gas mileage, it's electric. It's not like a regular skateboard. It's got big old wheels on it. I don't have to worry about a rock throwing me off of it. I actually thought that was kind of cute.
No, it is.
I'd love to see the guy. I'd love to see the guy, putting down there, on his way.
Well, then they were saying in the article he takes it over to his yacht lot near his house, and he walks his dogs with it.
Yep, I think it's pretty cool.
So, good for him.
Now, this one might get some comment out of you. The day following a dugout clearing brawl between the LA Dodgers and Arizona Diamondbacks the other day, Major League Baseball announced that the two teams would open their seasons next year against each other in Sydney, Australia. This was not a banishing or punishment to the teams for the bench clear, but a purposeful and planned overseas American baseball presentation. Not dissimilar to the NFL, I guess kind of playing games in London, England. The two teams will play a 2-game series on Saturday, March 22nd and Sunday, March 23rd at the Sydney Cricket Ground next March. This will be the first time a competitive U.S. baseball team and fixture will be held in Australia, and only the 6th time one has been staged outside of America. I know that you've got some thoughts on this one, Sidekick, as you were commenting on it while we were bringing it up yesterday on Junkies Radio.
Well, I mean, I don't have a big problem with it. If you want to play games outside the U.S., starting series and stuff, that's fine. I don't see the big deal about it. Where I was, getting or commenting on yesterday was, during the radio show, John's talking about, the players don't want to be away from their families and, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, oh, cry me a river. Boo-hoo. I don't want to be away from my family. Dude, you play professional ball. You travel how many days out of the year? Really? The fact that you're in Australia for 2 weeks or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's 6 days in advance, and then the 2 games, and then I guess there'll be a couple days coming back, right?
I don't see the big deal about the whole.
Let me ask you this question though, real quick. Why? What's Major League Baseball getting out of this? As I pointed out on the radio show, baseball is played, and I understand they've got cricket and what have you, and that's a variated form of baseball. Or baseball actually is, I guess, a variation form of cricket, really, because cricket came first.
Sure.
But they have baseball. They have Americanized baseball because everybody at different times had Olympic teams, and of course we've got the World Baseball Classic. What is the point? What is Major League Baseball really getting out of this? I don't get it. That's what I don't get. Any idea?
That I can't speak to, other than I know they were they were having some preseason games in Japan,
right?
To increase awareness and stuff like that.
And see, as Jonathan said, exhibition. All right, fine, but why regular season? Why do these have to count?
I don't know.
No.
Why? I mean, why exhibition versus other than maybe they're just trying to instead of okay, how they're talking about with the NFL, they want to shorten training camp and they want to do all this stuff so that the players don't get as much contact in and things like that. Maybe they're just saying instead of having them play a batch of exhibition games outside the U.S., why don't we just make it regular season games and cut down on some of the the extra games that don't count for anything.
Yeah, all right.
And maybe it's also a ploy to say, hey, these games count, so you're over here. You need to put on a good game, a good show because these games count for your record.
Well, okay, all right, maybe that's part of it. All right.
These are just things that are just kind of coming off the top of my head, But overall, I don't,
I just don't get the point to it. And I hate the idea of there being a couple of games on the books where other teams won't probably be starting until April 1.
Right.
To me, that is just stupid. I mean, I understand you got to give the teams a little bit of time to come back and get ready and what have you, and they got to get their head in gear for the beginning of the regular season. But we're going to have 2 teams that are going to be showing records a good 10 days before the rest of the league.
Yeah. Now, an interesting comment, though, on that article, as I was reading through some of the,
the posts.
Some of the trolls are just too much. But one person brought up a valid point, and that was, why don't you take, instead of taking Arizona and LA, which are warm weather teams, why don't you take, say, the Colorado Rockies and another cold weather team,
Milwaukee,
where the teams start, where you're almost in winter conditions when the season starts, and have them play down there.
Who were the 2 teams that we had the most difficulty with this past season? Colorado was one,
right?
Who had multiple delays and got all kinds of snow in April. Colorado is an ideal choice. That's a very, very good point. And I got to be honest, it was one that I was thinking of during the radio program yesterday, but as we got into the conversation, it kind of got ahead of me and I forgot to bring it up. But that's exactly what I wanted to bring up. Why don't we go to cold weather areas and bring them over to Australia.
Yeah.
I think it's a very valid point.
Now, one person did reply to that person's comment
Market.
and say,
It's market.
Well, no, it wasn't market. It was distant. It was flight time. Because if you look at where the two teams are now,
7,000 miles is 7,000 miles,
right.
dude.
So, you know.
I mean, what is it? I mean, we're
I mean, the other thing, though, could Major League Baseball maybe pick some countries that are a little bit closer? Like the NFL goes to England.
London.
It's like, you know, from here, from Philadelphia, it's like an 8 hour, well, I think it's 6, because Germany's an 8-hour flight. Okay? But, no, Major League Baseball's going to Japan, which is like a 12-hour flight. Australia, which is like, what, 16 or something? You know.
Yeah.
So.
There's our Screwy Stories for this week. You can bet we'll have a lot of similar ones again next week. NBA Finals have been, in my opinion, very, very entertaining so far, Sidekick.
Yep.
Particularly if you're rooting for the Spurs or, well, / happen to be a Heat hater. Bring us up to date.
Which I'm putting my foot in my mouth because I said Miami was going to sweep them. And the series is San Antonio 2, Heat 1.
Yep.
With Game 4 kicking off tonight in San Antonio at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. I don't know.
Sidekick, that was a. I mean, they didn't just beat them. That was a stomp down the other night.
Yeah.
Tuesday night, 113-77.
Yeah. Well, I think that game was in response to the beatdown that they took.
Right.
In Game 2.
Okay. Now we talked a little bit about this last week. 2-3-2 series, 2-3-2 format. Okay, in the finals. Mm-hmm. All right. San Antonio did exactly what they needed to do. They won a game in Miami. They've won the Game 3, which is at their house, as I pointed out, by an enormous score. What was it, 30-some points? They're playing again tonight. They're going to play Game 5, right? Is it 5? Game 5, yes. Mm-hmm. And San Antonio as well. Could this be done?
I don't know. I thought the Heat had more in them. And, you know, and I think I posted a comment on one of the posts about San Antonio. You know, and it's because of what Brandon said about the Heat being seemed to be a little lazy.
Yeah.
Until they kind of, you know, like they'll back themselves up against the wall, but then they'll come out and they'll play and they'll just, you know, and just run right over teams.
Let's do this real quick.
And I'm wondering
what's your gut feeling? That game tips off here in about 40 minutes. What would be your bet for just tonight? This is Game 4. Heat have got their back to the wall. Would you suspect that the Heat come out, play lights out, and win this game?
Oh yeah, LeBron's going to come out and dominate this game.
Okay, so you would put this in the Heat win column.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, definitely. Yeah.
All right, interesting.
Now, what will be interesting though, if San Antonio comes out and wins this,
it's over.
Do we now say, okay, it's just a matter of time and the Heat are done?
San Antonio won that game the other night, and I sat and I watched the whole thing. They won that game because they took the lane away from the Heat. That's what they did.
Right.
They forced them out to the perimeter and had them shooting perimeter shots almost all night long.
Yep.
Which they were capable of doing, but only sporadically. And so that's what shut them down. LeBron only ended up with 13 points, I believe, in the entire game. So if they do that again, but what we've seen from Miami is that they usually respond to game plans. So in other words, if they have a bad game plan against them, they usually respond to it coming back in the next game. So
sure.
I would be with you. I would say that Miami should win this game because their back is against the wall. Let's go take a look real quick at another sport that began their playoff finals. And I'm sure that this kind of makes at least one person at this table quite pleased, as shortly the NHL season, we will no longer be talking about them until next season. Last evening, Game 1 was played between the Western Conference representative and number 1 seed Chicago Blackhawks and the Eastern Conference winner and number 4 seed Boston Bruins. Interestingly, this is the first time since 1979 that we have a finals here that's featuring 2 of the original 6 NHL teams. Don't you feel bad that you're missing out on all of this fun?
Not one bit.
And it's already living up to its reputation and history. What a game last night. You missed, my friend. going to the 12:08 mark of the third sudden death overtime. Took three. Became, I think, the seventh or eighth longest finals game in the history of the NHL. Before the Blackhawks prevailed 4-3, and right now, as a result, Chicago holds a 1-0 advantage in the series. Game 2 scheduled and it'll continue to be in Chicago on Saturday at 8 p.m. That'll be on Saturday, all right?
Money.
You're missing a great series.
Cha-ching.
And you want to...
Cha-ching.
All right, listen, before we close up shop for this week, let's go take a look at our Frat House Sports Facebook post of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Which has a football flavor to it, of all things. And by now, everyone knows that the New England Patriots signed Tim Tebow to an incentive-laden, well, we're not sure if he's going to be or not, incentive-laden league minimum contract. Now, I posted up a screenshot of the USA Today sports front page of their website with the comment, all you have to do is mention or print the name Tim Tebow and the circus prevails. For crying out loud, just take a look at the contradictions and inconsistencies right on the front page currently of the USA Today Sports. And as you can see, two articles, one headline on the page at the time read, 5 reasons Tim Tebow will fail with the Patriots, while another headline read, why New England is perfect fit for Tebow. Are we any more schizophrenic about one particular individual? Are you kidding me? Ah, man alive. Well, there you have it.
And we're feeding right into it.
Zinger. All right, there you have it. Listen, do me a favor. Keep the posts coming. Make the comments on them. Keep viewing them. That one got the most views of all of our posts the entire week.
Which goes to prove
what you said, Jess.
You know, what all these sportscasting, you know,
about Tim Tebow.
Why
Tim Tebow?
It's not that we want to talk about Tim Tebow all the time. We merely you merely put up a thing saying, "Hey, look at this."
Look at the inconsistencies.
And because it's Tebow, it got the most views.
I guess I got to do that more often.
So, you know.
Yeah. Tim, would you come on the show for us, please?
There you go.
Maybe we can get Tim Tebow to come on the show. Brandon, work on that for us. All right.
Get right on that.
All right. Before we run away from you here, make sure you get over and check out fanjunkies.net. Fanjunkies.net, where sports meets social networking. And then while you're doing that, make sure that you're following Jonathan and I on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on Blog Talk Radio with Fan Junkies Radio, along with our friends up in Boston with Sports Blogger Radio on Thursday, and of course then also Frat House Saturdays with myself right here and I rebroadcast this show at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturdays. All right, over on Blog Talk Radio, Fan Junkies Radio, and fanjunkies.net. Many thanks to our friends over at CLW 83, Jim and Carl. Great job over there. They just released, I haven't had a chance to hear it yet, just released a new Touch 'em All program. They got some wonderful programming over there, podcast programming. Get over and check them out as well and give them a big hand. CLW83.com. And then last but not least, our own Frat House Sports.net. Okay? Should have put up one of our, we'll have it up next week, put up one of our little new
pre-stickers.
Yeah, there it is. There we go. Here, run that up here. Run that up here. There you go. Oh, nice job. There we go. Look, there we go. And if anybody wants one of these, we'll just get in touch with us and we will send one out to you. All right, there it is.
Yep.
Okay. FratHouseSports.net. All right. Having some fun here on a June evening. One more thing before we let you go.
Tornadoes rolling.
Mercifully, we got the tornadoes missed us. One more thing before we leave you. You know what you got to do for us, please? Till next week. Keep us real, keep us live, and keep us going. And we'll see you next week. Take care.
Jimmy Johnson passed Ryan Newman to retake the lead once again, and he just set sail.
He did. He said, hey, guys, it's me, Jimmy Johnson. I got the fastest car here this all weekend long. Coming through. He got around the 39 car, and I think after that, he never was challenged.
206 miles per hour into the turns for Jimmy Johnson. Now we are under caution again, and a little bit of beating and banging going on here between two of our championship contenders.
It's always a race down on pit road. You got to get on pit road. It's so important. You saw Matt Kenseth's coming in so fast, had that number 1 pit stall at the opposite end, but here at the other end, the 48, well, he had that coveted number 1 position because of the rain out. He beat everybody off pit road on consistently. His crew was flawless.
Flawless once again for that number 48 team, but watch out for Tony Stewart. 2 great weeks in a row, capped off by a win. They're trying to make another third one here, and they did it.
Well, that's exactly right, and he knew he needed to come here and kind of show everybody that last week at Dover wasn't a mistake. They scrapped and scrapped and scrapped and scrapped some more, and they finally clawed their way up to the front as you see him here going by Matt Kenseth in the 20 car. And at the end of the race, Tony pretty much showed everybody last week, well, it may have been Jimmy's mistake, but he is definitely a contender now.
Here comes the third caution of the day, Juan Pablo Montoya and Matt Kenseth.
Yeah, again, hard racing in a very tight part of the racetrack. We talk about how tricky this racetrack is. These 2 veterans found out real quick. 2 will not go in that area.
So as they found out, there's just simply not enough room, even on this big racetrack. But look at the save by Brad Keselowski.
Oh, this right here is incredible, our champ right now. He comes in this corner. He seen him get loose right there. I don't know if the 16 loosened him up or the 14 on the outside, but both of these guys, all 3 of them, did a great job of avoiding the number 2 car. The 2 car was able to right himself and keep on digging.
When you speak about former champions, this one, Jimmy Johnson, is poised to take another one. It looks like the 6-pack is in view, as no one had anything for Jimmy Johnson, no matter what they tried, Jeff.
Now, everybody had a shot at him at one time. The 39 of Ryan Newman, the 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr., and late in the race, the 16 made a run at him. But the 48 guys and the 48 team as a whole, and particularly Jimmy Johnson behind the wheel of this race car, he showed them, I don't have a problem with as many restarts as you want to throw at me. I can get the job done, and he did.